During the New Year countdown, Mom whispered loudly, "Your sister can't manage her finances. You'll fix it. Just $1,800 every month." Dad snickered, "If you don't agree, don't come back here." I sipped my champagne. "Then this is my last sip here." And then, the moment Mom started moving toward me during the New Year countdown, I felt it like static in the air. She always waits for a crowd. Always needs an audience even if they don't realize they're watching. I was boxed in between the kitchen island and the glass doors leading to the patio, half a glass of champagne in one hand, my phone buzzing with Happy New Year's from people I actually liked. She moved like it was casual, but I knew better. Mom only ever gets close when there's something she wants. 10 seconds left on the screen. Shouting. Sparklers. Champagne bubbles. Dad's voice somewhere in the background already slurring his third glass of scotch. She leaned in with that fake smile she uses for photos, held her glass up like a toast and said something I'll never forget. "Your sister can't manage her finances. You'll fix it. Just $1,800 every month." 7 seconds. I didn't react. Not right away. Not externally. But I felt the blood drain from my face. She didn't whisper like it was some awkward request. She said it like it was already settled. Like this was just a formality. A heads up. As if I'd missed the memo and she was doing me the favor of catching me up. 5 seconds. He kept going. Her voice was low but clipped. She said it wasn't charity. It was family. That I'd been lucky for too long. That now it was time I stepped up and did something meaningful with my success. That my sister was going through a tough time and Mom couldn't carry her alone anymore. That Dad refused to help and it all fell to her. Unless of course I wanted to finally act like the older sister. 3 seconds. I stared at her, silent, still holding the champagne glass. That's when she added that she'd already promised my sister the money would start this month. Not next month. Not later. No. 2 seconds. Dad didn't even look away from the TV. Just grunted and said, "If you don't agree, don't come back here." But I sipped my champagne. "Then this is my last sip here." Midnight hit. Fireworks exploded on the screen. People screamed, someone dropped a glass. My sister shouted my name from across the room like we were 12 and about to take a family photo. I didn't move. I stood there, the taste of champagne going sour in my mouth, while my mom turned back to the crowd like she just told me what kind of pie was coming out for dessert. No one else noticed anything. That's what made it worse. Everyone was laughing, hugging, pouring drinks, like my mother hadn't just tried to stick me with an $1,800 invoice wrapped in a guilt trip. My sister showed up minutes later with a big grin and her arms wide open. She hugged me like she hadn't already been briefed. Like she didn't already know she was about to become my monthly expense. I didn't hug her back. I left before dessert. Quietly. No goodbyes. No explanations. The drive home was dead silent, no music, no podcasts, just the occasional boom of fireworks in the distance. I thought about all the things I'd paid for without thinking. Grocery bills. Random Venmo requests. Last-minute emergencies that never felt like emergencies until now. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was the expectation. The entitlement. The way my mother said it like it was owed. The way my dad didn't blink. The way my sister smiled like I was just a line item on her budget now. That night I made a decision. Starting January 1st, I'd stop being the easy option. The backup plan. The emotional ATM. No more surprise transfers. No more, "Can you just cover this until next week?" No more guilt. They were about to see who I became when I stopped trying to earn a place in their house. And for the first time in years I actually looked forward to the new year. They ruined that night for me. But they had no idea what they'd started. January 1st didn't come with a hangover or a single regret. Just a long stretch of quiet, the kind that feels almost foreign after years of constant obligations. My apartment was cold, clean, and still smelled faintly like the eucalyptus candle I'd lit before leaving for my parents' place the night before. I opened the fridge, almond milk, eggs, a single bottle of rose. No leftover cake. No guilt. Just clarity. Then came the first text. 9:12 a.m. My sister. "Hey, Mom said you'll take care of my rent this month. I'll send over the info again just in case you lost it. Love you." No question mark. No, if that's okay. No thank you. Just a confirmation like we were running payroll. I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen, remembering how she hugged me at midnight like we were best friends. Meanwhile, I had apparently been signed up as her financial sponsor. By noon, Mom had sent me a Google Sheet. Yes, a literal spreadsheet. It was color-coded, labeled, titled 2025 Monthly Household Plan. Under January in bold yellow it read, "Charlotte, $1,800, sister's rent plus phone plus car insurance." She'd already planned out the rest of the year too. Each month had different notes. Tax season, back to school shopping, Christmas fund. I felt nauseous. Not because of the money, but because of the entitlement. This wasn't a request. It wasn't even a conversation. It was an invoice. They had the nerve to schedule my generosity. And then just when I thought I'd seen it all, Mom followed up with, "We need this to run smoothly. You're in a place to help and it's time to stop acting like you're on your own." That line stuck with me. Time to stop acting like I was on my own? I was on my own. And they were the reason I stayed that way. January 2nd, I began the first phase. I opened every account, every auto payment, every subscription, every bill tied to their names or addresses. Grocery delivery? Gone. Amazon Prime? Cancelled. Their Spotify family account? The cell phone plan they'd been on for years under my name? Suspended. It felt surgical. Cold maybe, but necessary. They noticed quickly. January 3rd, Mom called. I let it ring. She texted next. "I hope you're not being dramatic about what we discussed. This is your family. You don't turn your back on family." I deleted it. The next morning, Dad called. He didn't even pretend to be kind. He said I was being cruel. That I'd forgotten where I came from. That Mom was now crying every night and I was the cause. That my sister was too sensitive to handle this kind of stress. That I was the only one who could hold this family together. And then he said the quiet part out loud. "You're the one with the money now. What else are you gonna do with it, Charlotte? Spend it on yourself?" That part actually made me laugh. Because yeah, I was going to spend it on myself. For the first time in years, I wasn't going to justify every dollar. I wasn't going to split my paycheck 3 ways and pretend it was noble. It wasn't. It was just survival disguised as duty. That same day, my sister posted a video from a cafe downtown. New boots. New lashes. Holding up a mimosa like she hadn't just expected me to cover her rent. And that's when it all clicked. This wasn't a moment of desperation. This was normal for them. This was the system they built. I was never helping. I was financing a lifestyle they refused to outgrow. So I didn't call. Didn't respond. I let them twist. By January 5th, the texts changed tone. Now it was, "Are you okay? And we're worried about you." Mom even tried to loop in my aunt to guilt me, who texted, "Your mom is really struggling. I know she can be intense, but she loves you. Don't shut her out." But they weren't worried about me. They were worried about the hole in their wallets. Because for the first time the faucet was off. And they didn't know how to function without it. And I was sleeping better than I had in years. By the second week of January, their silence had shifted from insulted to strategic. I knew the pattern. When guilt doesn't work, they retreat, recalibrate, and come back with a new angle. I'd seen it before, but never this quiet, never this calculated. At first, it was just small nudges from my sister. Not about money. That would have been too obvious. She went for soft openings. "Hey, what's that website you used for flights? Do you still go to that nail place in Midtown? Random, but do you remember that soup Mom used to make when we were sick?" Each message was like a fishing line cast out into water she couldn't see anymore. I never responded. Not because I was angry. I just didn't owe her an explanation. That was the shift. I used to feel like I had to justify every decision. Now I owed them nothing. On January 9th, the whole thing escalated. Mom showed up at my office. I watched her through the glass wall of our lobby, standing there like she just dropped in for lunch. Dressed nicely, clutching her big beige purse like it was part of the performance. She smiled at the receptionist and asked for me by my full name. I watched the whole thing on the security feed while the front desk called up. I didn't go down. I just sat at my desk listening to the phone ring. Eventually, the receptionist left her with a polite smile and a business card she didn't want. I half expected a dramatic scene, maybe tears, maybe yelling. But no. She left without fanfare, which scared me more. An hour later, I got a text. "You really couldn't come down to see your mother? Even for 5 minutes?" No anger. Just quiet disappointment, her sharpest blade. I didn't answer. That night, she followed up with a voicemail. She said she was worried I was changing. That maybe the people I was surrounding myself with were turning me into someone cold. Someone selfish. She reminded me that family is forever, and that people don't just cut off blood unless something's wrong with them. Unless something's wrong with them. By January 13th, I started hearing from relatives. Distant ones I barely spoke to. My aunt from Tampa sent me a Facebook message, asking if I was okay. Then added that my mother sounded broken on the phone. Another cousin emailed me with a subject line that said, "Family Matters," and that was enough for me to delete it unopened. They weren't reaching out for me. They were being deployed. Mom was building her case, creating a narrative. Charlotte, the ungrateful daughter who abandoned her struggling family after making it big. She was spinning a version of the story where she was the victim and I was the villain. The generous daughter gone cold. And I let her. Because arguing with her version would just feed it. The best thing I could do was go quiet. Let her talk. Let them all talk. By the 15th, the emotional temperature in my apartment had changed. I wasn't checking my phone obsessively. I wasn't waking up dreading what excuse they'd come up with next. I was actually calm. I went to yoga. I picked up takeout without feeling guilty. I started reading again. The financial freedom was nice, but the mental freedom? That was priceless. Then came the 19th. Mom emailed me again. This time the subject line was, "We need to talk. This is serious." The email was long. It started with more guilt, how hurt she was, how confused. Then it took a sudden sharp turn. "We've had to delay some payments. The car insurance is due this week. Your sister's credit score is at risk. She's been humiliated enough already. Please don't force me to choose between my daughters. That's not fair to any of us." And then the closing line. "You might be doing fine, Charlotte, but the rest of us aren't. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." Harder than what? Harder than carrying them while they pretended it was my job? Harder than swallowing every jab they'd thrown at me when I didn't do enough fast enough? I didn't respond. Instead, I printed out the email and highlighted that line in red. Then I taped it to the inside of my closet door, so I'd never forget what this actually was. By January 20th, the air between us was frozen. No calls. No texts. No birthday reminders. Nothing. And for the first time I realized they were planning something. This wasn't over. This was just a pause. Because people like my mother don't stop when they hit a wall. They wait until you open the door again. And I could feel it. Something was coming. But I was ready. January closed out like a curtain falling on the last scene of a failed play. Quiet. Awkward. I hadn't seen or spoken to any of them in over a month. I thought the storm had passed, that maybe they'd just moved on and were back to surviving off whoever else they could leech from. Then February 2nd came. A Sunday. I got a text from Mom out of nowhere. "Family dinner this Friday. Just us. Nothing weird. Come home." No apology. No explanation. Just a statement. The same tone she'd used when I was a teenager and she needed me to clean something. Not asking, just expecting. I stared at it for a long time. I don't know what made me say yes. Maybe curiosity. Maybe arrogance. Maybe a part of me wanted to see them try to play normal again after everything. But mostly I wanted to look them in the eye and remind them I wasn't the same Charlotte they'd built their routines around. I told her I'd come. Friday night, I pulled up to the house I grew up in. The siding looked more faded and the porch light flickered like it hadn't been changed in months. Mom opened the door before I even knocked. Her makeup was done, the good plates were out, and music was playing low from the speaker in the kitchen. Dad greeted me with a forced smile and a shoulder pat like he'd been coached. My sister hugged me like nothing had ever happened. They all acted like we were back in 2018 and I had just come home for a weekend visit. Dinner was overcooked spaghetti, garlic bread, store-bought tiramisu. They kept it light, talked about weather, a new neighbor who got arrested for something vague, and how Dad was considering painting the den. I just nodded and sipped my water. But something felt off. Too smooth. Too calm. Like they were acting. I noticed it when Mom took my coat and hung it herself. She never does that. I noticed it when Dad kept checking his phone under the table then suddenly stopped. And I really noticed it when my sister excused herself mid-meal and disappeared upstairs for 15 minutes. They were waiting for something. Or someone. But nothing happened. I finished dinner. They brought out coffee. Mom lit a candle. We even laughed once. About a neighbor's weird lawn gnome collection. When I finally stood to leave, they didn't protest. Mom just handed me my coat and gave me a hug that felt more like a goodbye than anything else. It wasn't until the next morning that I realized what they'd done. I opened my purse around 9 a.m. to grab my bank card. It wasn't there. I tore the place apart. Coat pockets. Kitchen table. Bedroom. Nothing. I checked my email and sure enough, there it was. $2,100 withdrawal. Location, a local. Time, 10:47 p.m. The exact time I was in the kitchen with Mom helping her clean up while my sister was grabbing something upstairs. They didn't steal the card. They borrowed it. Just long enough to drain it. I stared at the transaction like I was watching someone else's life. I thought I'd be furious. I thought I'd drive back there, scream, threaten, maybe even press charges. But I didn't. I sat down at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and realized something that shocked even me. I didn't want the money back. I was done. I let them have the $2,100. And in return I wanted silence. I wanted peace. I wanted them to know they got one last win, and it would cost them any future access to me. They had taken what they needed. But this time they'd done it in front of each other. It was coordinated. Final. That was their move. And now it was my turn. Because once you rob someone who's already given you everything, there's nothing left to take. Only things left to lose. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't even freeze the bank card. I just let the charge sit there. $2,100 withdrawn from an ATM 5 minutes from my parents' house. No receipt, no apology, no trace. I let them have it. That was the deal I made silently over coffee that morning. They get one last payout. In exchange, I disappear from their financial ecosystem forever. Mom must have sensed something. Monday morning she texted like everything was fine. Wasn't it nice to have everyone together again? Felt like old times. Let's do it again soon. I stared at it for a while. Not because I was tempted to reply, I wasn't, but because I was almost impressed. The performance was so smooth it made me wonder how many times they'd done this kind of thing before. How many dinners, how many gifts, how many little heartfelt family moments had actually been prepped around taking something from me? I didn't answer. I went to work. I got a salad. I lived my life. But when I got home that night, I opened my laptop and started closing the doors. The bank card was only the beginning. Over the years, I had unknowingly created a pipeline they'd been siphoning from for so long, they probably forgot it wasn't theirs. I pulled up my subscriptions list first. My Netflix, 5 profiles, only one was mine. Deleted. Who? Gone. Amazon Prime? Cancelled. The Spotify family account they all mooched off of? Closed. Even the iCloud storage plan that somehow backed up my sister's entire photo library? Cut off. Then I went deeper. I'd added my mom's phone to my Verizon plan years ago. That one hurt to admit. Cancelled. I'd also been paying for their Wi-Fi ever since they'd moved houses. Something about the account not transferring cleanly. That autopay? Cancelled. Every single financial string they had attached to me, no matter how small or old, was clipped that night. It was past 1 a.m. when I finished. I didn't feel guilt. I felt clean. They didn't notice right away. Tuesday passed. Then Wednesday. Thursday afternoon my sister finally texted. Hey, is the Wi-Fi down at your place too? The streaming apps won't work. Mom says the bill must be late again. I stared at it and said nothing. Let them troubleshoot it. Let them realize. That night I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail came through. It was Dad. He didn't sound angry. Not at first. He sounded tired. He said calmly that the cable was out, the internet was off, and he couldn't log into anything. Then the edge crept into his voice. Said if I was doing this out of spite, I was only hurting the people who loved me. And then the line that told me everything I needed to know. Your mother said you're making a statement. We get it. You're the one with money. You're in charge. Congrats. Now turn the damn services back on. That voicemail stayed unplayed in my inbox. I forwarded it to my email, saved it, then deleted it from my phone. Friday morning Mom emailed me with the subject line. You win. It was 3 paragraphs. The first was sugar. We're proud of you, you're doing well, you've always been driven. The second was acid. You've changed, you've become cold, your success has isolated you. The third was a subtle threat wrapped in faux grace. We've accepted that you need space. We'll respect that. But just know shutting us out says more about you than it does about us. I sat with that sentence for a long time. Because she was right. It did say something about me. Said I'd finally learned to protect myself. That weekend I went to brunch. I bought myself a pair of boots I'd been eyeing for weeks. I didn't check my account balance before paying. I didn't feel the weight of anyone else's bills in my wallet. By Monday, none of them had reached out again. No texts. No calls. No new fake emergencies. It had finally sunk in. They couldn't reach me. Not because I'd blocked them, I hadn't. But because they knew. Deep down they knew. That dinner was the last act. That stolen $2,100 was their exit fee. I'd been their safety net for years. But now, I'd folded it up and locked it away. They could call me cold, mean, even heartless. I wasn't any of those things. I was just finally done pretending we were still a family. They never admitted it. Never apologized. Never tried to return the money. Not even a fake, I didn't know, or, I thought it was your spare card kind of excuse. Just silence. And that silence stretched out longer than I thought they were capable of. By the end of February, it had been over a month since the dinner. Since the theft. Since I pulled the last thread connecting me to them financially. No texts. No missed calls. No guilt-laced Bible verses from Mom. Not even those casual, how's work? Check-ins they used to send when they were trying to warm me up for another ask. They disappeared not completely but tactically. Like a retreating army regrouping behind some invisible wall. I knew how they operated. This wasn't surrender. It was recalibration. In the quiet I waited. Part of me expected something big. A confrontation. A meltdown. Maybe even a group text with some faux spiritual speech about forgiveness. But no. They went underground. And in that vacuum I started to breathe again. I started noticing how much of my time used to orbit around them. Texts from mom at 9 p.m. asking about her online order. My sister's endless chain of Venmo requests labeled things like groceries or Uber, but somehow always in round numbers. Dad calling at the end of the month, just to check in with a casual mention that the power bill was pretty steep this time. Gone. It was like I'd been dragging a weighted sled behind me for years and only just realized I could unclip it. I cleaned my apartment top to bottom. I started cooking again. I slept. Really slept. Not just the kind of half-rest you get when you're bracing for another demand to drop. I booked a solo weekend trip to Santa Fe. Bought myself a coat I'd been eyeing since December. No second thoughts. No guilt. That coat used to be someone else's phone bill. Now it was mine. But even as things calmed, the silence started to itch a little. Around the second week of March, a mutual acquaintance messaged me on Instagram. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years. She was vague at first, but then said she'd run into my sister at some party. And apparently my name came up. She said, "Your sister's still really shaken by everything. Said you've changed, that you're mean now. Like colder than she's ever seen you. She told us you didn't even flinch when she cried at dinner." Cried? That never happened. My sister never cried that night. She left the table smiling and disappeared upstairs, probably to copy down the card number. I didn't respond to the message, but I screenshotted it and saved it in a folder on my phone labeled "Proof I'm Not Crazy." They weren't just staying silent. They were rewriting the story. In their version I was heartless. Unreachable. Pooh. I didn't help because I wouldn't, not because they took from me without asking. In their story they were a loving family who made one small mistake. And I was the villain who punished them forever. Fine. Let them tell that version. Let them sit around and talk about how I changed. Because I did. They made sure of that. They thought they were stealing from someone soft. Someone they'd raised to feel responsible for everyone else's comfort. Someone too afraid to walk away. But they miscalculated. That $2,100 wasn't a win. It was the receipt for burning the last bridge they had to me. They got what they wanted, a last payout. And I got what I needed, clarity. So now when anyone mentions them I just say I hope they're doing okay. Nothing more. I don't rant. I don't defend myself. I don't explain. I let the silence speak for me. Because it turns out, nothing scares people like them more than realizing they no longer have access. Not to your money. Not to your time. Not even to your anger. They used to think they could hurt me by taking from me. But the only thing they really took was their place in my life. And I let them keep it.
Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. See you in the next one.